Welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com, and welcome to Hump Day, and I'm joined with my partner, Jason Walker, in Colorado. We got a lot of exciting stuff happening right now as we speak. The guy that has the body and the face for radio is doing a live recording. This is a new thing we're going to be doing to YouTube. This is still in the preliminary stage. We're testing it out. I've got a camera in my face. It's like a movie set in here. Well, at least maybe a low budget movie set in here. So we're testing this out. Jason, we're going to be testing his stuff out, hopefully in the next week or so. And our goal, by Christmas, you will be able to see that I did not lie or exaggerate. Yes, I truly do have the body and the face for radio. Jason is going to be the pretty one. But Jason, welcome. Good morning. Hopefully we got things working out right now.
Yeah, I think you can hear me. I got one thing I wanted to bring to the show, but the other thing is this going to be something that they can watch live, or is this something that it catches like a podcast after the fact?
Yeah, it will be. Great question. So it will be a podcast after the fact, because otherwise you're going to see me sitting here during breaks, drinking tea or picking my nose or all of that stuff. We'll have all that out of there. And of course, YouTube with bumper music and all that other stuff. We'll cut all that out. So the YouTube video, right now we have a YouTube audio that you can listen to, but now we'll have the video. So it will post after the show is over. And we're hoping to do that as quickly as possible, but we'll see how that all works out. But as we work through this, our goal is before Christmas rolls around, we'll start having YouTube video, Jason.
That's excellent. I think it's going to be something cool for the fans and the customers to have another avenue, right, Joe? So I had something. I didn't get a chance to come on the radio on Monday and Tuesday, but I had something I would definitely want to mention. So I'm sure you heard this, but you probably didn't hear it the way I heard it. We have college football teams like most states, and we have CU, and so I'm sure you heard Deion Sanders was hired as the head coach of CU.
Prime time is coming to Colorado.
Now, I was watching the news conference, and I don't know if you saw, they were talking to the athletic director and him, and this is CU has not done so well. So I think they're actually, with Deion Sanders coming on, I think, if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but I think they're going to be paying next year 3 coaches because, the guys they fire, they have to keep paying the contract. One of the media said, hey, I can't remember the guy's name, the athletic director for CU. He's like,
whoever yeah.
Can you afford this? This is what he said. This is a statement of America. No, we can't afford this, but we'll figure something out. That was the answer, Joe.
Yeah, they actually don't have the money yet. I know Prime Time is going to get, I think, like $6 million a year. But then there's all kinds of other stuff. If you win this many games, you get a bonus. If you win the Pac South or whatever region, you get this bonus. If you go to a bowl game, another bonus. If you ranked in the top 25, a bonus. If you get 6 wins, they give him like $250,000. If he gets every win after that, I think he gets like $100,000. I mean, yeah. So CU's got a lot of. Hopefully, I'm sure what's happening right now is they're calling all of the boosters of CU and asking if they would like to make a donation for prime time.
Can you imagine if you get hired onto a job and the employer's like, yeah, you're hired. I don't know if we can afford to pay you, but you're hired.
It's like a layaway program. Well, I'll say this. Great hire for Colorado because they're an awful football team, at least if nothing else. Because I don't know. Can Deion Sanders coach? We'll find out. We know the guy can recruit. It would, if nothing else, it put Colorado football on the news at least for the last 2-3 weeks. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, you know what? Just put it on the credit card. It'll be all right. But apparently, this morning, both Wells Fargo and Bank of America's CEOs were out saying, we may have a problem, and saying that the rate of growth is slowing. They're saying that retail payments have surged 11% so far this year. The increase now, there's been a huge slowdown in recent weeks, primarily in November, Jason, that the consumer is starting to spend less.
Oh, yeah. I've been seeing that all this year, just in the dealings at the radio station and the Patriot Trading Group, Joe, and people are spending way less, and the credit cards have filled up bigger than they ever have before, Joe.
Well, so not only here's the quotes. This is Wells Fargo. The slowdown is happening. There's no question about it. We are expecting a fairly weak economy throughout the entire year. So they're talking about 2023 and saying that hopefully, that's never a good word. When bank guys are saying the word hopefully, it's not a good thing, that it will be somewhat mild relative to what it possibly could be. And again, remember, yesterday we talked about the derivatives problems in the currency markets. Today, the 10-year note has fallen out of bed. We've got a rally in gold, a rally in silver. We'll talk about that when we return. Patriot Radio News Hour. Don't touch that dial. 800-951-0592. We got gold higher today. Gold's up 8 here, 17.78. Silver's up 40 cents, 22.50. The Dow's mixed. The Dow's up 63. The S&P's up a couple points. The Nasdaq's down. This market recap brought to you by my friends at YRefi. Listen, guys, we know how volatile it's going to be. Just look at what the CEOs of B of A and Wells Fargo had to say about 2023. They're hoping, fingers crossed, that maybe this thing will be mild. Get some great returns with my friends at YRefi that aren't in the market. You don't have to worry about rate hikes. You don't have to worry about the bond market. You don't have to worry about what Jay Powell says next Wednesday. You can get up to 10.25% compounded daily, interest paid monthly, no fees. My friends at YRefi Invest at YRefi.com. That's the letter Y, then REFY.com, or call them at 888-YRefi24. That's 888-YRefi24. Make sure you tell them that Joe and Jason sent you. And Jason, this morning, the bond market just crashing down. It's now at 346. And on Wednesday, we're going to get a rate hike. We could have a situation where the 10-year note is a whole point below the Fed's funds rate. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, you've been covering this for a while, and you know the yield curve inversion has been really the most ever. So we're in new territory, Joe. So it means new situations we've never seen before are going to happen right now.
Yeah, and normally, so let me explain to you why that's important. So the bond market, they look ahead. They really are looking ahead. And when you see, it's one thing for the shorter-term treasuries to yield more than a 10-year note. That's the inversion. But to be this far below the Fed funds rate, the bond market is essentially saying, hey, what those two bank CEOs said this morning about, hey, we're hoping it's going to be mild, the bond market is essentially saying that's not what we see. That is not what we see. We see something extremely, extremely worrisome. And Jason, it's just another one of those signs. We don't know, but it sure looks like these cracks are starting to get bigger and bigger. The one thing that has been the big standout has been the consumers and jobs. And now all of a sudden the bank CEOs are saying, hey, there was a big change in the consumer in November. And, of course, Challenger Gray and Christmas, remember, job layoff announcements jumped up, like 400%. Now, granted, they were super low, but those are telling signs this morning. More trouble for Carvana. There may be a bankruptcy, Jason, for those people. We know that housing's dead. We know that the car market is dead as well. And we're starting to see, Jason, some of these cracks in those areas.
Yeah, lots of industries, Joe. You're seeing a lot of job losses getting ready to happen or already starting. And yeah, Carvana is a big one. There's a bunch of them, Joe. And then it started with a lot of the tech jobs in the last bunch of weeks. And it just seems like it's spreading all over the place, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, and something else to note. President Xi of China is in Saudi Arabia today. So he's there, I want to say, for 3 days. Apparently he's able to get meetings with the head King Solomon, if you will, at MBS, I think they call it, whatever they call him, the head of Saudi Arabia. Remember, they ignored Joe Biden and said, hey, we'll get to you when we get to you. But, Jason, this is going to be of particular note. They're going to sign a bunch of deals. A lot of people are saying that $30+ billion in deals between China and Saudi Arabia. I think what's going to be interesting, is there any talk of, one, Saudi Arabia joining BRICS, or two, any talk of Saudi Arabia selling China oil in renminbi? Either one of those two things would be a huge destabilizing force for the dollar.
I agree with that, Joe. Definitely. Those factors and many other things that are going on. I don't know if you're going to get into this, but the Bank of International Settlements. I don't know if you heard about that. They're really pushing people to need dollars in a time where there's less dollars seemingly available. So Joe, these things are getting ready to happen, and the next month or two, Joe, are going to be fascinating as far as what's going to happen with dollars. Countries that want to use them, countries that don't want to use them. And it sure seems like it's almost being forced upon the world that they have to use these things. That's what it's looking like to me.
And again, I talked about that yesterday with the Bank of International Settlements. Matter of fact, go out to allamericangold.com today. The Martins, Wall Street on Parade. Really great article to educate you. They're saying the derivatives, these are off balance sheet. We don't even get to look at them. Are 10 times, and this is just the currency, to what Jason's talking about, just on the currency derivatives. I'm not talking about their commercial real estate derivatives. I'm not talking about their residential housing derivatives or credit card derivatives or auto derivatives or derivatives in corporate debt. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just talking just the currency side. Is 10 times the actual capital that these banks have, Jason.
Right, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. From what I understand, the Bank of International Settlements, they process about $5 trillion a day at this place, and they think there's $80 trillion floating around there that's unaccounted for. And if all this was to come home all at once, it would be like a bank run. Is that how this works, and things could freeze up?
That's exactly how that would work, where all of a sudden these derivatives, one of these banks gets in trouble. They need liquidity. They can't get liquidity. All of a sudden, these derivatives, these off-balance sheet derivatives, start collapsing. And essentially what they're saying, and again, they didn't fix anything. This is systematic. And this is kind of what the Bank of International Settlements is saying. Oh, we got a problem because it's pretty much all the foreign banks. Between them all, they've got huge levels. Not to mention, listen, they don't want to tell you about our banks, but we've got something about half of the exposure at our banks. You're right. We know we got about $40 trillion worth of exposures in the foreign banks, and then our banks have the rest of it, Jason.
Correct. And then, so from what I understand, nothing will really happen except for this, which is let's just say this has already happened or is going to happen, where too many people, too many banks, too many insolvent entities start bringing that money to the Bank of International Settlements. The Fed, through all of its, different, I guess, bases throughout the world for handing out the money, they'll just give the money out. Because it's one of those things where we don't get to see what happens. They'll just give the money out, just like I'll keep going back to it, the Glenn Beck FOIA request, where they didn't just print $5 trillion to save things in 2008. They printed $29 trillion. This is one of those things where they'll just print the money to give them what they need at this little trade-off. And this is where, Joe, I think that inflation is going to be almost impossible to get on top of if they have to keep dishing out money for things like this.
Yeah, if they got to open up like the repo window and start providing hundreds of billions. To Jason's point, you got to remember the $4 or $5 trillion a day going through this thing. So that's a lot of liquidity that we would have to come up with at a time when they're trying to say they're not doing it. And again, I think this is why you're seeing gold and silver building momentum. This is why I think you're seeing this bond market continually starting to say these are not cracks. I'm calling them cracks. These aren't cracks anymore. These are gorges. These are something where the bond market's saying, hey, by the time we're done with this, we may have something the size of the Grand Canyon. That may be how big the hole is. And I find it interesting that last week, and this is the things we don't see until after the fact. We know that in December that ESG is starting for the large publicly traded companies. And again, Jason and I were talking about digital currencies, what that means and how they're going to control. And again, they're going to start instituting carbon footprints with your bank accounts. That's what's coming as well. And on the 2nd of December, the Federal Reserve invited public comment. Now, when they say public comment, they don't want comments from me and you, right? That they don't care what we have to say. They're out there. They want comments from the big banks. They want comments from the big multinational corporations, and then again the foreign institutions as well. Jason, listen to this: principles for managing climate-related risk of banks with $100 billion or more in assets. And let me tell you right now, that's pretty much most banks in America. There's a few handful of these smaller banks that have less than $100 billion worth of assets, and they just are getting gobbled. Those banks are disappearing monthly. So this constitutes pretty much the vast majority of all deposits in the United States is now going to be talking about carbon footprint and climate change when it comes to bank accounts.
So where do you think it goes from where it's at now? Where's it headed through this process?
Well, I'm just speculating here. I think that once again, it's going to be how much freedom can you afford. This is something that Jason and I have been talking about, and again, they're going to use this climate change thing, and this has been this multi-pronged attack that they've unleashed everywhere globally. We've created fake shortages of cheap energy. We keep pushing this wind and solar agenda. There's no reason. We're saying oil's cheap in the 70s. Listen, there's no reason for oil to be more than $30 or $40. There's no reason that our electric bills have tripled and are getting ready to triple again. But Jason, they're doubling down here, and it really looks to me that they're going to start tracking all of your purchases, which we already know is coming. But now it goes a step further. And then we're going to tie that to climate change. Hey, you're using too much gasoline. You're having the temperature at your house it's too high or too low, depending, right? Let's just say, can you imagine in the summertime here in Phoenix, and you want to set the AC at, I don't know, 76 degrees, and then next thing you know, they come back and say, well, based on your carbon footprint, sorry, you can't set it at 70. You got to set it at 82, or you got to go out and buy a carbon credit.
Man, well, I'd want to go get a swamp cooler or something at that point. that's not on their deal, just run the hose, right, Joe? But
and listen, this gets really complicated because what they're proposing is some form of stress test for these banks on climate change. So, Jason, kind of it's really like a backdoor way here of getting after us. Hey, we're going to stress test these banks, and then the banks, based on what they come up with, are going to put the stress onto us.
Right. It's a type of fascism, the Constitution, and people feel like they have these freedoms, so we can't make laws to just force them to do what we want. But since we basically run and tell these big corporations what to do, they'll just do what we want, right, Joe?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we saw it with COVID, right? We're going to see it again with climate change. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Wednesday, and just crazy comments. I mean, think about what's happening in the bond market. Think about what the Bank of International Settlements had to say. And this is what they're focused in on. Listen to some of these comments coming out of people that are pushing this idiotic agenda down our throats that's going to do nothing more than take the vast majority of the working middle class and put them right into poverty, make them more dependent upon the government. This is a great way, behind the scenes way to the government making us all indentured servants out there. But comments like this. Regulators must issue guidance and address the growing threats. Both individual banks and, believe it or not now, climate change has the stability of the entire financial system at stake. Yeah, the whole thing. If we don't do something, the whole financial system's gonna fall apart. There's no time for the Fed or other banking regulators to delay, right? In other words, just ram it down everyone's throat. Don't even give them time to realize what's happening out there. The effects of climate change present serious and complicated risk to our banking system. I did not know this, Jason. I did not know that if it's half a degree warmer, apparently the whole banking system is going to collapse.
Yeah, well, you connect all these things together when they don't have to be that that much connected. And yeah, well, it's climate change, Joe. It's dollars and cents, and it's all connected. It's one big thing, and everyone's got to do that. That's what they always do. Everyone's got to do their part, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Everyone's got to do their part. Everybody's got to be a big team player, right? And it's not our fault. See, it's just, the weather, the stinking sun, let's face it. And the Chinese, what are they doing, having an economy almost as big as ours? And now India, right, and their economy. Hey, we don't want to do it, but we do. You know what? We got to get rid of cash because cash is bad for the environment. You're going to hear that. I promise you that. And, oh, by the way, man, I'm sorry. I know that you can't afford that electric car. I know. But, man, you're just using too much gasoline. So, you know what? You're going to have to give up eating meat. And, by the way, turn your thermostat up and do all these other things to offset. Did you see people are, I guess you can go like on Ford's website and try to do a calculation for buying a truck, a 2023 truck. Have you seen this, Jason, at all?
You've talked about how expensive the trucks are recently, but I have not seen an expense calculator.
This was done, and I want to be fair here. This was done a couple of days ago. So this information is a whole 48 hours old. Wolf Richter, he's great. Wolf Street, great website. Got a lot of great information. He's really, really good with certain types of information, the car market especially. But he went out there. He went out to the I Built website at Ford, a 2023 F-250 Lariat. Okay, so that's a nicer package on a truck, the Lariat package. And when he got done building it, it was $104,070. Now, just to be clear, he only added $6,000 of options, right? The base for a 2023 F-250, $96,095. Ford suggested that he finance it with Ford credit, down payment 10% down. Okay, so you're going to put $10,407 down. So just imagine, I need a new pickup truck. I hope you got $10,000 to put down. A 5-year term at 5%. I would hate to see what they want for 7 or 8 years. 5-year term at 5%. The monthly payment, $1,768. I'm not kidding you. That was more than my mortgage payment was on my first house, I think. I was about to say pretty close to that. But now that's just for the F-250. Now, how about the F-150? All right, so the 250, that's usually, guys, hey, I'm hauling stuff, right? I use it for work, and I haul big loads. How about the F-150? That's your daily driver. I mean, you can still use it as a work truck, but that's your the F-150. That's your daily truck out there. Manufacturer base price $84,910. He had $3,000 worth of options. The estimated net price was $90,780, and he went in, and this was the lease option. Okay, so we went with a lease option because we know a non-lease option. We know that's probably going to be a $1,500 or $1,600 payment. If you can put $9,000 down, so think about this: I'm going to rent my truck from Ford because that's what a lease is. It's a fancy way of saying rent. I'm going to rent my truck from Ford. I got to put 10% down. Jason, if you did that, hey, you get to rent this truck for only $1,007 a month.
How much?
$1,007 a month.
To rent it.
To rent it, yes. And hopefully, listen, I hope you don't go over the miles or get it dinged up because, man, that's going to be pretty costly.
Why do I get the feeling that Uber and whatever the other one is, they're going to be kind of like the Facebook and Twitter of getting around and transportation, Joe? Yeah, and I wonder how that would work on social credit. Right? I think an allowance, Joe. I think it's very possible they'll say, well, look, here's how much it costs $1,000 to rent a truck. That's your monthly payment. Hey, we'll give you a whole month. You're just sign up for a payment plan, and $500 a month will drive you everywhere you want to go. It's gonna be something like that, Joe.
Could be, right? Yeah. Hey, you get the privilege of riding. And again, right, setting it up. Hey, you're not in there by yourself, right? You're going to have 3 or 4 other people in the car with you. Kind of a modified version of the bus. That's coming to everybody. We'll be right back with more Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on a Wednesday. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason here, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Wednesday. Gold, looking here, gold's up 11 17.80. Silver's up 43 cents, 22.25. Jason, I got a huge special today. We don't do a lot in the graded coins, right? We want you to buy as much gold as possible, stay as private as possible, right? That's why we always recommend the pre-1933 $20, $10, and $5 Liberty Saints, Indians. But this is an opportunity. It's too good to pass up. It's holiday times. These wholesalers are starting to get real aggressive with pricing, especially because, think about it, gold's up from the low of, 4.5 weeks ago. What was it, 16.20? So think about 17.80. That's a $160 rise. Jason, they have put Mint State 63 $20 Liberties, and this is where at Mint State 63 and higher, the Liberties get real pricey because they're hard to find in that type of condition. Because remember, the Liberty Series 1866 to 1907, Jason, these currencies, they got heavily used. Most of them got melted down when they confiscated gold in 1933. But this price it's incredible. It's $2,125. That is $160, just under $159 and change off of what the price is right now on the website, Jason.
We have customers that only buy when we have these available. So I know that at the Colorado office, Joe, there's a few of our customers that they're a connoisseur of a graded gold coin. One of the major reasons that they tell me that they like the graded, even and they pay more for it, and they're not paying much more for it today, but is because in all kinds of weird situations, Joe. Sometimes when you have to sell it to somebody that's not Patriot Trading Group, if you have to sell it to somebody else somewhere else, well, this is a third-party grading system that has verified, one, how good the coin is, but number two, when it comes to identifying the coin, it's like, I know it's a $20 Liberty, and the third-party grading service has identified it's a $20 Liberty. So some of our customers, that's all they buy. They just buy these. And when you can buy them at essentially just a little bit above a circulated coin, it's great. And let me do this. I'm going to back up Joe on that, because these $20 Liberties or the $20 St. Gaudens, but none of them really circulated that heavily. That they did circulate. However, the $20 Liberties did circulate much more than the St. Gaudens, because the St. Gaudens were only around for a couple of decades. These $20 Liberties have been around, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years or more, and the wear on them is much more. So it is a little more rare to get these $20 Liberties in higher grade, Joe.
Yeah, and think about this. It's only 55, and like I said, we don't do these a lot because, hey, I don't want you paying $2,285 when you can buy an uncirculated one for $2,070. But now you're just talking, hey, wait a minute, $2,125 for a Mint State 63. That's only $55 difference. And you think about per grade, if you will. Jason, you're talking about paying less than $5 a level there to get all the way up to Mint State 63. This is a fantastic opportunity, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I don't know which grading company these are coming. I'm sure it's PCGS and
PCGS and NGC. That's it. There'll be one or the other. PCGS and NGC, and those are the two premier grading services in the world. These guys are worldwide. If you collect other things like sports memorabilia, baseball cards, it's PCGS and NGC. These guys are the best of the best when it comes to the grading services.
Yeah, and we never know when we get these things shipped when these were graded. They could have been graded 25 years ago or 15 years ago, or they could have been graded, a month ago. But there's this thing that goes on with graded coins that people need to understand, that the standards for grading coins, sometimes over long periods of time, they change. And what they've been calling it is grading inflation. which I was using this term before the inflation started happening this last year and a half, 2 years. But what that means is this, they've loosened the standards on some of the grading of the coins, Joe. So if some of these have been graded years ago, it's very possible that if these were broken out and sent back in, they might get higher grades just because of the industry standards, Joe.
Yeah, and again, I think that whatever it is, this opportunity, it's incredible. They come encapsulated in their hard plastic cases. You can still see the front and the backs of the coin, but really, and it's more of a situation with if you're going to sell it or trade it to somebody that isn't all that well educated on gold, it just gives you that extra layer of comfort that they know, hey, this thing's legit, it's the real deal, and it's a great opportunity. $2,125 for Mint State 63 $20 Liberties at 800-951-0592, a savings of just under let's round it here, $160 less today at that sale price at 800-951-0592. When we get back, I got to update you on oil and what's happening in that market, and then more concerns about the consumer. The top iPhone supplier saying demand has slowed significantly, kind of what the bank CEOs have said as well. Pick up those 63s. Jason and I are going to wrap it up. Final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason wrapping up this Wednesday. Gold's up a dozen, 1782. Silver's up 50, 2260 and change. And remember, I'm giving you the December contracts. If you go on TV, the big contracts that are trading gold, it's the February contract, 1795. For silver, it's a March contract. It's already at 2280. So we're taking back most. We had some profit taken on Monday, and really nice signs. We've got buyers coming in yesterday, more buyers coming in today. As again, more of the data saying slow down, get ready for the Fed to maybe slow rates even more into 2023. Oil today. So we got oil inventories. Big drawdowns, about 6 million barrels down. But on the flip side, we had big gains in diesel and gas. And that's normal this time of year. When it gets darker earlier, people drive less. It's colder, so they don't want to go out. So we normally see these inventory builds. And I would say, all in all, if not bullish, not bearish, still big draws in crude, but really nice gains in diesel and unleaded gas. So I would call it mixed, but not bad. It does show this. One of the things, because prices here in Arizona have come way down. They're saying that hasn't affected the consumer, is not driving more, which kind of goes along the lines of there being a slowdown in the economy, Jason.
Yeah, obviously energy being one of the biggest expenses for a household, food and shelter being the other two. Those are the essentials. Without those three things, it's almost impossible to live, especially in a modern society. So, that's an easy thing. Hey, we could drive, 40 miles to see our family, or we can just give them a phone call and do something around here, right, Joe? Less gas. Less gas being used is obviously going to be something that's driving some of the prices down temporarily.
And we'll see how that pans out. And then they did have monthly central bank gold purchases. Jason, not a surprise. Central banks continuing to put more gold away. Already 2022 looking like it's going to be an all-time record for the amount of gold being purchased by central banks. And again, going back to the Bank of International Settlements and the warning that they had out, this is a way for central banks to really protect themselves from this exposure in the currency markets.
That's correct, Joe. Well, it's going to be interesting. Like I keep saying, there's nothing we can do about all these things that are happening. We report it to you, right, Joe? And we try to get you to understand the listener and then the customer. This is what we've been doing. I've been doing it almost 5 years with Patriot Training Group, and Joe's been doing it well over 20 years. We're finishing up 26 years. Is that right, Joe? I mean, this is a company you can trust. We got offices in Colorado and Arizona, and we ship all over the country. And we're gonna increase this customer base, Joe, as we go.
Absolutely. And if you're a new customer, you want to get in on these MS63 $20 Liberties, just call our 800 number. Tell the girls, I want the special. Our only hard question is, how many would you like? We take credit cards, we take checks, bank wires. You can pick up, or if we ship FedEx. So we got you covered. 800-951-0592.